everyone, this is Assistant Professor, Department of AML, Aditya University. In the today's lecture, we are going to discuss regarding software development process models. In that, we are going to discuss regarding waterfall model, spiral model and evolutionary models. In the today's lecture, we are going to discuss regarding software development process models. Those are the waterfall, spiral and evolutionary models. So let us start with the today's session. At the end of this lecture, the student will be able to analyze the software models as well as he is able to explain the waterfall model. So, waterfall model. Before going to start off with the waterfall model, in the last session, we have already discussed regarding the software process models. In that, we have seen some of the generalized models, and in those generalized models, one of the model was waterfall model. So, let us have a deep discussion on waterfall model. So, waterfall model. What does a waterfall model represent? The waterfall model derives its name due to its cascading effect from one phase to another. What does the cascading effect mean by? So, deriving its name due to cascading effect from one phase to another in the sense. So, once a phase is starting, so completion of the first phase, then we are navigated to the second phase. Then it will be navigated to the third phase, then towards the fourth phase. So, until we are completing with the first phase, we are not supposed to move to the next phase. So, phase 1, next phase 2, next phase 3. So, and this particular effect is nothing but the cascading effect. So, moving from one phase to another phase until the completion is done. So, moving from one phase to another after completion of each phase. So, next point. In this model, each phase is well defined, has a starting and ending point with identifiable delivers to the next phase. So, every phase what we are taking will be having a goal to be met. So, every phase what we are dealing will be having an identified deliverable. So, that means it is having a starting point, it is having an ending point. So, every phase is having an identified deliverables to the next phase. And this particular waterfall model is introduced by Winston W. Royce in the year 1970. So, this was introduced in the year 1970. The waterfall model is classic life cycle model. So, this was the traditional model which was used from the very beginning. Each phase is completed fully before the next phase begins. So, this is what we discussed. So, once we have done with the phase completely, then only we are supposed to move to the next phase. So, until and unless we are completing the first phase, we are not supposed to move to the next phase. So, once we are done with the first phase, then moving towards next phase, then moving towards next phase, then moving towards next phase. So, this is what happens in the waterfall model, nothing but the cascading effect. So, stages of waterfall model. So, when coming to the stages of waterfall model, we are having these many phases in waterfall model. The first one requirement analysis, second one design, third one implementation, fourth one testing, next one deployment, next one maintenance. So, some representations in some books or some representations in some pictures will be shown somewhat extension of the stages in the waterfall model, but every waterfall model will be starting from the analysis phase towards the maintenance phase, which can be shown in 6 to 7 stages. So, these were the stages involving in the waterfall model. So, here we can see the diagrammatical representation of waterfall methodology. So, starting from the requirements towards the maintenance, we can see 6 phases. So, here we can notice one particular thing, requirements, then an arrow mark towards the system design, then an arrow mark towards the implementation, then towards the testing, then towards the deployment, then towards the maintenance phase. So, and this particular effect is nothing but the cascading effect, where we can see the flow from one phase to another phase. And this representation is nothing but looking like a waterfall model. So, that's why it is called a waterfall methodology. So, from the requirements to the maintenance phase, we will be having these many phases in between. So, these were the phases, and this is particular the representation of waterfall methodology. So, let us have a deep discussion regarding all the phases involved in the waterfall methodology. So, first one, requirement analysis. So, in this stage, to understand the requirements of the system to be developed. So, what happens in this requirement analysis phase is, we are having the complete requirements of the system which are to be developed. So, we are going to understand the requirements involved in this particular project. Next one. software definition to be detailed and accurate with no ambiguities. So whatever software definition or else whatever things that we need to define in terms of software, that should be in a detailed way and it should be accurate without no ambiguity. So that means the statements or else the requirements what we are specifying should be in a very clear cut way. Next one, SRS document is created. Nothing but the software requirement specification document will be created, where we are going to specify the complete details and documentation regarding the project. So this is regarding the requirement analysis phase. So next phase is design. So in this phase, the requirements gathered in SRS transform into suitable form for coding in the programming language or selection of a platform. So what happens in the design phase? So the requirements what we have gathered in the form of SRS will be transformed into suitable form of coding. So by choosing a programming language, we are just developing the next stage of design. So till now, the requirements what we gathered will be designed, and based on the SRS documentation and based on the design, now we are going to the next phase, that is nothing but coding. So the next phase is design. So in this phase, the requirements gathered in the SRS transform into suitable form for coding in a programming language or selection of the platform. So based on the requirement analysis, so the requirements what we have gathered will be transformed into the SRS documentation, and based on that particular SRS documentation, we are going to the next phase, that is nothing but the design, where we are just getting the design of that particular project what we want, and also we are just having a suitable form of programming language for code. So we are just looking the suitable one for programming. Next phase is implementation, nothing but the development phase, and in this phase, the software design is translated into source code using any suitable programming language. So by choosing any of the programming language, we are just translating the design into the development phase, nothing but the coding phase. Next phase is testing. So in this phase, the code is thoroughly examined based upon the different testing methodologies. So based on the different testing strategies, we are just examining the code what was developed. And in this testing, we are going to have many testing types. So apart from them, we are just going with the 4 basic testings. Those were unit testing, integration testing, alpha testing and beta testing. So these were the some of the testings which will be listed in primary. So this is regarding the testing phase. So the next one is deployment. After the testing is done, the product is deployed into the customer environment or released into the market. So once we are done with the phases of requirement analysis, design and implementation followed by testing, then we are going to the deployment phase, where we are releasing the software into the public. So that will be deployed into the customer environment as well as it can be released into the market once if it is in a working condition. So the last phase will be the maintenance phase. It is performed by every user once the software has been delivered to the customer, installed and operational as per the customer requirement, and made the changing customer needs, adapted to accommodate changes in the external environment. So what happens in this maintenance phase? Once the project or once the product is deployed, so it will be sent to the maintenance phase, where it will be continuously monitored. So the software what we develop will be continuously monitored and made the changing customer needs. So if the customer is expecting something, so some new features can be added, and it also accommodate the changes in external environment. So it will be getting ready to adapt the external requirements, or else it will be getting ready to adapt the changes whatever required. So this is what happens in the maintenance phase. So completely these were the phases involved in waterfall model. So from starting from the requirement analysis to the ending phase of maintenance, so it goes in the 6 stages. So at the end of the lecture, the student will be able to demonstrate the waterfall model. Thank you.